Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. We have here a patient who attended earlier on last week, and I actually uploaded their previous procedure of 6 months ago or so. It's video 1389. I will put the link in the description. And so if you had watched that video, this patient suffers from really itchy, unbearably itchy ears, I would say, and they suffer from otitis externa. They've seen ENT before, and they've tried various types of topical antibiotics and various other sprays, antifungals as well. And some of the medications, she really finds that they exacerbate her symptoms. So they've been prescribed some steroid in the past, cream that got swapped to ointment, and have gone back to the cream because the cream is better suited for moist, kind of weeping skin, whereas the ointment is more suitable for dry, flaky skin. This patient's got naturally more moist and weepy skin. So your ears can be itchy for two reasons: either they can be really, really dry, or they can be really, really moist and gooey, and that can cause an itch. So ironically, in that video, I think I mentioned that this patient is going to have to return soon because it's been about 6 months, and they did almost like clockwork. Now, they felt that they weren't themselves sure if the cream had made any difference. Now, to me, especially the left side, the canal wall itself just looked slightly better. It didn't look as weepy and moist and damp, but it's difficult because we don't know really and truly what's going on here. Now, is all this the natural accumulation of cream? I don't think so. I think it's a bit of an infection here because they, in the past, I've had to, obviously, because they use the cream and ointment on a regular basis, it's going to clog up their ears eventually. But this is definitely, for me, I think they've also got an underlying fungal infection, more specifically possibly candida. So whilst they've got this steroid cream to help with inflammation for their skin condition, it's not really going to treat really any underlying fungal or bacteria. So I have written to their GP, and I've requested a swab to be taken, and also I've just pushed for a referral to dermatology. The patient hasn't yet seen dermatology. I think it would be useful. Otherwise, it's going to mean this patient's going to, quite, young. I know that doesn't really make too much difference. It doesn't matter what age, but the reason why I mentioned the age is that they've still got to live the rest of their lives like this, and so if we can find a solution, and we can find a solution of all ages, of course, don't get me wrong, but I'm just putting it in perspective. This patient has to come for the rest of their lives 6 months or sooner, and this is not going to be done on the NHS, unfortunately. It's going to be a huge expense. So I think, they haven't been seen by dermatology yet, but I did mention it last time that I think they should. So I'm just kind of trying to push that through now, and hopefully something can happen. Now, the patients are fully aware of their what they need to do themselves. They need to avoid water. They need to avoid scratching inside their ears, because that's just going to make the symptoms worse. If you scratch inside your ear, you're going to cause micro abrasions. You're going to disrupt and damage the epidermis layer of skin, which is the outer layer of skin. That's your protective barrier. That's going to then allow fungi, bacteria, viruses to penetrate deep into the skin, for example. When we're talking about the skin on the outer third, because the skin on the outer third has got 3 layers. You've got the epidermis, and you've got the dermis layer, the middle layer, then you've got the subcutaneous layer, which is made up of insulating fat and connective tissue. The middle layer, the dermis layer, that's where all the hair follicles are. That's why you get the hair strands, these hairs protruding out from the cartilage portion. It contains collagen, elastin. And then the outer layer of skin, the epidermis, that's made up of 5 layers as well. So the epidermis continuously replaces itself. And it's the epidermis skin, as that dies and sheds, that mixes with oils and sweats produced in the ear to form earwax. So the inner 2/3 of the ear canal, you don't have the dermis or the subcutaneous layer, it's just that outer layer. So that makes the bony part of the ear canal so sensitive, because you're literally working on bone and periosteum. So periosteum is a sheath, if you like, a membrane that sits directly on the bone, and it supplies the bone with all the blood, oxygen, nutrients that it requires. So if you touch that bony part of the ear canal, it's going to be really, really uncomfortable. Believe you me, I've had it, I've experienced it myself. So this procedure is complex for that reason, because I'm using the fine end because the patient does have a bit of tinnitus. It's not debilitating, but so we want to minimize any noise exposure if possible. You can't remove this any other way. You can't scoop this out because you're going to be scraping the canal wall. It's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to cause an abrasion, which can then make the situation a whole lot worse. Obviously, you can't use an ear hook, can't use forceps. I'm sure some people would disagree with that. So we just have to vacuum this. So I did take loads of intervals. I went in and out, not only for the patient, but to also rest my hand, because I'm having to hover right over the canal. It is, obviously, for that reason, it's really, really difficult, because you've got to just make sure your hands are really, really stable. Now, you may have seen the eardrum, the anterior-inferior quadrant. So it kind of, in terms, if you think about the eardrum like a compass, we're thinking south-east. It's slightly red. That could just be just a bit of inflammation. So much you might have a cold. They don't feel that they're cold. They could have, so a bit of acute otitis media, so a bit of inflammation of the middle ear, so the blood vessels dilate. Whenever you see a red bulge in that kind of region, you've always got to think about a glomus tumour. So a glomus tumour is a tumour that extends from the floor of the middle ear. And with glomus tumour, it can cause the eardrum to bulge, so you kind of, it's almost the eardrum is inflated in that region, and glomus tumour can have its own pulse, so people can often experience pulsatile tinnitus when you've got a glomus tumour. This patient didn't have pulsatile tinnitus, but another thing, sometimes when you've got a mark like this, it could be a sign of otosclerosis. So there's a thing called the Schwartz sign, and if you look through the eardrum, it's normally not on this part of the eardrum though, it's where it's to the left of the hammer bone. You may be able to see it in this patient's ear actually, where the hammer bone is, the big bone running from 12 o'clock to the middle of the eardrum. That's the malleus, the hammer bone. On the left hand side, just it's hidden out of view behind the suction probe here, but you've got the incus there, the long process of the incus, also known as the anvil. And then the anvil is attached to the stapes or the stirrup. That's the smallest bone in the body. So in this patient, we can actually see the long process of the incus. And we can't always see that. It's just because this patient's got a slight translucency of the eardrum, which is more common in younger patients. And as we get older, the eardrum becomes less translucent and it becomes more opaque. And where the stapes bone connects to the cochlea, the organ of hearing, via a structure called the oval window, sometimes people can develop a condition called otosclerosis, and that's when they have an additional spongy growth. It can be genetic. Pregnant patients can sometimes develop this, so there must obviously be some hormonal link there as well. If it is genetic, apparently it can generally skip a generation. It's more prevalent in females, and it can come to the onset sometimes can be late teenage years, early 20s, for example. Patient kind of fits that category possibly. Now, so what otosclerosis is, you've got this additional spongy bony growth that develops as kind of that calcification, calcium deposits on the stirrup bone, which means it fuses against the organ of hearing. So that additional bony spongy growth, it fuses, so it stops the bones, the ossicles, it fixates them. That's what we actually call it ossicular fixation. So sound waves are no longer conducted and travel and transmitted through the bones because they're confused. And when you've got otosclerosis, one of the possible landmarks that you can see is called Schwartz sign, and that's just when you get a bit of pink or redness in that region, because the spongy bony growth has its kind of its own blood supply, if you like, it's vascularis. So if you get that kind of Schwartz sign, it's normally more on the other side. So anyway, we've mentioned that to the doctor as well. Now I'm just peeling away some of the skin. I'm really happy with what you've done. I'm not going to be able to get everything out. It's just not possible, because we risk contacting the canal wall, and we don't want to do that. So the left ear you'll see in a moment is a bit more complex, because the patient had used a cotton bud. This patient, as I said, when he got psoriasis, the itchiness of the ear, that's very common with fungal infections as well. It can happen with bacterial infections too, of course. So on the left side, they actually used the cotton bud they know they shouldn't do, and it just pushed it right up against the eardrum. So I'm really, really happy with that, and so was the patient, most importantly. So you can see here, this is stuck to the drum. Now, spoiler alert, I'm not going to remove all of it. You're going to see the whole eardrum, mind you. There's going to be some residue on the back part of the ear canal in particular. For me, that's the most sensitive part. So I'm using the fine end again. I don't really want to go with the full zone of suction probe because we're close to the eardrum, but also because, again, the patient's got a bit of tinnitus as well. They had an MRI scan, it came back clear, and they've never had any issues in the past when performing microsuction, but again, just want to minimize risk. So I'm going in and out frequently to reduce the duration of exposure of the noise as much as possible. But again, we can't really remove this with anything else. So now, some of you guys know I've got this campaign going to raise public awareness about the current UK practices of ear care. So we're just waiting for an official response on our membership body if they decide to respond. I know they haven't responded to any of my communications yet, but I know they're fully aware because one of the very senior members on the board is frequently viewing my LinkedIn profile, no doubt obviously for updates. It's quite ironic actually, because this particular individual, they may remember, back in 2015, I got initially trained in earwax removal with this particular board member. And we actually did it at his clinic. He was hosting the clinic. And I'm not going to lie, the training was abysmal. I have talked about this in previous videos. And didn't really do much hands-on practical, if I'm honest. He hosted it at his clinic and did get some patients in, but half of them, well, I think 4 and 3 of them didn't even have wax. And actually, it was 3 of us on the training course. It was one of our other delegates that had the wax, and I actually ended up removing that. And that was quite funny as well, because I remember the wax was in the ear and I was trying to get it, and my trainer was saying, "Oh, don't go in too deep." And I was like, "Well, the wax is, I have to get the wax because the wax is deep." And I do remember this individual, and to be honest, all of us struggled because, as I said, the training wasn't great. We didn't really do much. We just spent probably 2/3 of the day, I would say, just getting used to wearing head loops, because they can be tricky to get used to, because it was like binoculars, and at first things are blurry vision because you're seeing two objects, and you're having to train your brain. And I did get there in the end. I got there myself actually with an ENT microscope afterwards, because I've got one in the clinic, and spent many, many hours just literally looking through a microscope in, not even at sometimes people's ears. If I'm at the clinic, just getting an object, putting it on the couch, going backwards and forwards with the microscope, because every time you go backwards and forwards with a microscope, which is what you have to do in the ear when you remove earwax, it can become, you lose focus very easily with a microscope. And that's the same with the WAXscope. With the endoscope, it's different. So, so the way we kind of were taught, what we do, we wear these loops, and then we put your thumb in front of your hand, and then you close one eye and trying to get your other eye focused on your thumb. Then you close the opposite eye and open the other eye, and you do the same, and then you have both eyes open, and at first you'll see 2 thumbs in front of you, and then the more training and practice you have, they kind of merge, and we call that stereoscopic vision. It does require a lot of training actually. I was speaking to an ENT consultant recently, and he was saying that when he's training some people not in earwax, but was training junior doctors who wanted to become an ENT, and he realised that he found that a lot of the juniors were struggling with that. So what they would do is close one eye and just look into the ear with the other eye. And I know a lot of people actually do that. They practice like that. They just struggle with the binocular vision. Anyway, so we spent probably a lot of the time just practicing that, if I'm honest. But this person actually, I hope they don't mind me saying, and I'm saying I struggled as well, but I don't think either of us should have really passed, because we didn't really do much, and it was tricky. So I'm very surprised that this particular individual, I know it's a board and it's collective responsibility, but they are also endorsing courses. Now, another interesting thing, I initially thought some of these courses were 2 days, and actually someone who attended one of these courses, I had a lengthy conversation with them today for about 2 hours actually, a lovely person. And they were obviously just not happy about the situation, and So they went on a course, and I thought it was a 2-day course, but it was 1 day. It was actually a 1-day course, and this is also for people who've had no previous ear care experience, guys. No previous ear experience, full stop. Whether you're in the healthcare profession or not, this, you can be a physiotherapist, an optician, or a dentist. It doesn't matter. You just haven't got any ear experience, which is what you need to just the foundation of performing earwax removal. And obviously on this course also I've been training complete healthcare professionals. So we've had beauticians. I know of beauticians. They actually contacted me, told me they've been on the course and they want to come into my course, and I said they're not suitable. They don't have the qualifications. We had someone. It was another similar course that's been accredited by this membership body, and they have a history in finance. In fact, they wanted to register their services onto my ClearWax website, because we've got a website where we can advertise specialists. So for me, obviously, financially, it'd be great. Yeah, advertise yourself on my website. I'll get an advertising fee from you. But we check, we do our due diligence, and they sent the certificate. So they've been in a day's training course, and we said, well, what professional background have you got? And they said they're in finance. And we were just mortified. And we've got the certificate and everything. So, and it's got this membership body's logo on it. And this person who I'm just referring to, they've got a really good website. I must admit, it looks very professional. And obviously they're advertising the fact that, they've been on this accredited course, which kind of, to the unsuspected member of the public, which I'm sure I've raised a lot of awareness amongst you guys, you'll probably think that, oh, wow, it adds some credibility, doesn't it? It disguises the fact that they've literally just had a day's training on this particular course I'm referring to. I mean, there's so many courses that are doing this. And they've got a certificate with a membership body's logo. So if I was a patient and if I go and see a specialist to have my ears cleaned, I'm naturally, obviously my ears are wide open now, but I would assume that this person is fully qualified. They've got, everything's above board. And if they've got a certificate as well with a membership logo, I think, yeah, they know what they're doing. Of course they do. But then they've got this website, it's good, they're advertising this. So if I was a member of the public, I wouldn't really suspect anything. So, so this person who went on this other course said that it was actually a 1-day training course, not 2 as I thought, but it might just be this individual's particular training that they had. They've got no previous real experience. Other people didn't either. They spent, as she said, 6 hours and 55 minutes just not really even learning much about anatomy. And that was the thing that really bothered her. It was more about this particular company selling their product, how great it is, why they designed it, and it's sort of singing and dancing, etc. And I think it was an hour and a half tops that they did some work in a mannequin, so a fake ear, so to speak. And they then obviously they looked in each other's, there was about 4 or 5 people on the course, I think, probably more. And they learnt otoscopy, I don't think they learnt anything, because you're not going to do that, are you, all in an hour and a half? Because that's the only practical, and again, it might just be this particular individual's particular course day. She had about an hour and a half, as I said, with this thing in her hand, practicing on a mannequin, and then all they did was look in each other's ears. I don't know how successful it was. And then the second day was a supervision day. This is where I was a bit shocked. So this person who went on the training course didn't do any procedures on a real ear. They did a little bit on a mannequin, less than an hour and a half, and that included other people doing it as well. And they're doing it they're looking inside each other's ears. They got signed off, and then this patient had to get 4 patients for one of the trainers to come and supervise her. So she got these four patients. She told me that all of the 4 patients, all of them had earwax in both ears, and this trainer was there for 5.5 hours. So this person who went on the training course, who was getting supervised and signed off on their supervision day, they were with these 4 patients collectively for 5.5 hours, and she didn't remove any earwax from their ears. And she got passed. I've paused there on purpose to make it sound more dramatic. I don't know if I even needed to, but I'll just reiterate that. And this person is going to put it in writing as well. So let's see. She went on a training course. It was a 1-day course. She said 6 hours and 55 minutes, I think it was. She wouldn't even call it theoretical. She did about, I think it was less than an hour and a half. I'm just trying to make it sound more credible. So hour and a half. They practiced with this device, holding it, putting it in a mannequin's ear. They did do a bit of microsuction in the mannequin's ear. Then they looked inside each other's ears, and then she had a supervision day. She had to get 4 patients. They had the patients that she recruited had earwax in both ears, and she wasn't able to remove it from any of their ears. She got signed off. So yeah, deeply. And this person themselves was shocked. They were really, really surprised that, you know, she got signed off. Really, really, really surprised. This person is from a nursing background, so they have got experience with ears. So they wanted to come in our course. They because they're suitably qualified professional. They obviously need a training, and they haven't received. She said that Neil, I've got this kit, and for me, I was so worried about using this kit because I just thought I could do some damage in someone's ears. And so anyway, near into the end of this video, so just come back to it. So there was a bit of residue there. As I said, I can't scrape that bony corner. I'm not prepared to do that and cause injury. I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, keep well, and speak soon. Bye.